10 years ago, in a small town, a man started raping his 2-year-old stepdaughter. For our purposes, I'm going to call her Jane Doe. He filmed that abuse and shared it online with other pedophiles. The girl repeatedly disclosed her abuse, but she was not believed. For this little girl, the boogeyman was real, and he lived down the hall. For 10 years, Jane Doe suffered. Exploited children. We know that family members are the largest category of offender in actively traded series, and of those, fathers produce more child sexual abuse images than any other type of offender category. According to law enforcement, children can be heard in these videos screaming for daddy to stop. So critical. If half of the unidentified children in Interpol's database are likely American victims, that means that a team of 7 at HSI's Cybercrime Center are tasked with finding tens of thousands of American victims. And that's why the Renewed Hope Act is critical. It will increase that full-time workforce from 7 to 200. Despite the success of Operation Renewed Hope, we cannot leave these remaining 56,000 children to languish. They need intervention, and they need it quickly. And WhatsApp, CSAM is proliferating across that particular application because it's encrypted and it provides safe harbor for pedophiles all over the world.
Is that something down the road that our law enforcement agents will be able to use to try to identify these children and get them out of those harmful situations?
Yeah, actually, facial recognition is a game changer for that purpose because children's faces are in the photographs, and I think that it's led to quite a number of successful identifications and rescues of children that have been seen in that database. So Homeland Security investigations, the FBI, all of our federal and state partners need to be able to have permission to use that technology. It's a game changer.
But I'm interested, Ms. Cooper, how much does the Tim Tebow Foundation receive in federal funding?
We do not receive any federal funding at all.
And how many victims has Operation Hope identified?
Tentatively identified 730 and safeguarded and rescued, I believe it's 280. Speak again. My name is Camille Cooper, and I'm Vice President of Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation at the Tim Tebow Foundation. The Tim Tebow Foundation exists to bring faith, hope, and love to those needing a brighter day in their darkest hour of need. Our anti-human trafficking efforts span 52 countries around the globe. You have a few great bills before you this Congress: the Strengthening Child Exploitation Enforcement Act, the Protect Our Children Act reauthorization, the SHIELD Act, the Trafficking Survivors Relief Act, and Representative Smith's reauthorization of TVPRA. For today, I'm going to focus most of my attention on the Renewed Hope Act, which addresses the need to identify and safeguard the 57,000 unknown children seen in crime scene photos that depict their rape and torture. Chairman Biggs and Representative Laura Lee, thank you for your leadership and your assistance with that bill. 10 years ago, in a small town, a man started raping his 2-year-old stepdaughter. For our purposes, I'm going to call her Jane Doe. He filmed that abuse and shared it online with other pedophiles. The girl repeatedly disclosed her abuse, but she was not believed. For this little girl, the boogeyman was real, and he lived down the hall. For 10 years, Jane Doe suffered. In 2020, the number of children in the U.S. like Jane Doe that had their abuse images in the possession of law enforcement but had yet to be identified and safeguarded was 11,000. In 2022, the anecdotal information put that number at 20,000. In just 2 years, it had almost doubled. When I got to TTF, we put the protection of those children as our #1 priority, and we got to work. With the help of Timmy, John Rouse, Jim Cole, and the entire team at TTF, we hatched a plan. Bring all the experts in the world together with the goal of determining how many unknown victims were in the global image database at Interpol and operationalize a plan to find them. The result of that meeting led Homeland Security investigations to create the first ever victim identification task force in the United States and dubbed it Operation Renewed Hope. In the summer of 2023 and the winter of 2024, this task force tentatively identified over 730 children, including Jane Doe. To date, 289 of those children have been confirmed safeguarded. Almost half were American children. Operation Renewed Hope 3 is currently underway as we speak. Based on current data of actively traded series identified at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, we know that family members are the largest category of offender in actively traded series, and of those, fathers produce more child sexual abuse images than any other type of offender category. According to law enforcement, children can be heard in these videos screaming for daddy to stop. In a study of unidentified victims of the Interpol database, they found that 84% of the images were of actual child sexual abuse, 47% contained extreme abuse, including rape, bondage, torture, defecation, and even bestiality. 4.3% of the images were infants. Due to the nature of online distribution, international collaboration with Interpol is essential in identifying and safeguarding American children. By way of example, the offender in Arizona rapes his child, films it, shares it with offenders in Spain or Germany. When those countries make an arrest and seize that offender's devices and analyze the images, they will find new victims, and those new victims' images go to Interpol's International Child Sexual Exploitation Database. Since its inception, 14,000 children, or almost half of the identified images in the ICSA database, have been American children, and this is why collaboration is so critical. If half of the unidentified children in Interpol's database are likely American victims, that means that a team of 7 at HSI's Cybercrime Center are tasked with finding tens of thousands of American victims. And that's why the Renewed Hope Act is critical. It will increase that full-time workforce from 7 to 200. Despite the success of Operation Renewed Hope, we cannot leave these remaining 56,000 children to languish. They need intervention, and they need it quickly. When Jane Doe was protected, this is what she said. When the police arrived at my house, I felt happy. I felt that something good will happen for me. God, I was thrilled. I wanted to smile because I knew something good will happen. It was magic. Today, the fate of 56,000 children is in your hands. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Ms. Cooper, how can social media companies help? You know, I view, especially with young males, that pornography is kind of a gateway drug to stuff like this that happens. How could the social media companies help? And have you identified ways that they could be to stem the tide of this proliferation?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. It's a great question. Under our current legal framework in the United States, social media companies have to report CSAM that they find on their networks, but only if they see it. So they don't have to proactively look for it, and I think that proactive detection is probably the most significant action that technology companies could take in this country to look for the material and then remove it. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is a lot of the social media companies like Meta provide encryption on their services like WhatsApp, and WhatsApp CSAM is proliferating across that particular application because it's encrypted and it provides safe harbor for pedophiles all over the world.
Have any states taken action? First of all, I'm not sure the legality. Can they have any states taken action in this regard?
Some of the states are looking at things like age assurance and age verification issues to be able to block content for minors. But then some states are looking at ways to be able to sort of block the efforts of the Internet Crimes Against Children task forces by preventing them from being able to collect what's called attribution data in their investigation. So you kind of have both things happening at the state level. It's a bit of patchwork. So we have some laws that have been passed, like in Utah, that have problems. And we have some laws that are passed in other states that are working towards like age verification.
Okay, and Ms. Cooper, what do you think the effect would be of a shutdown in government funding?
Well, I think anti-human trafficking and child exploitation efforts have been historically underfunded. So really, we need more funding for enforcement efforts, for demand reduction. But I think that it's really important to clarify that there's good funding and there's bad funding. And good funding needs to go to support law enforcement. It needs to go to support survivor care. It needs to go to support legal services. But bad funding would be funding that supports the full decriminalization, and that means funding that supports decriminalizing brothel keeping, pimping, and sex buying. What we need is an increase in efforts to enforce those third-party profiteers that profit from.
Ms. Cooper, you mentioned the unidentified 56,000 children, I believe was the number you told us, where these kids, we know they've been victimized by family members or whatever the case may be, which is incredibly tragic. Do you think facial recognition will help? Is that something down the road that our law enforcement agents will be able to use to try to identify these children and get them out of those harmful situations?
Yeah, actually, facial recognition is a game changer for that purpose because children's faces are in the photographs, and I think that it's led to quite a number of successful identifications and rescues of children that have been seen in that database. So Homeland Security investigations, the FBI, all of our federal and state partners need to be able to have permission to use that technology. It's a game changer.
Good. How much money do you get, or your organization, the Tebow organization, get from the federal government?
Nothing.
Not a dime. But y'all are, what, $30 million a year, I think, is your budget, is that right?
Yeah, our budget's significantly higher than that because we do have some organizations that are sort of subsidiaries of us. So I think that right now we're at about $50 million
Thank
that
you,
we give out.
and tell Ms. Tebow we appreciate your
For
efforts.
being here
Ms.
today. I, too, am a former prosecutor and served as the lead prosecutor on the Child Exploitation Task Force while I was at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Tampa. So I have seen firsthand both the horrible crimes that are perpetrated against our country's most vulnerable children, and also how vital the work by federal agents and others in investigating and prosecuting these cases truly is. As a member of Congress, I am committed to ensuring that we do everything that we can to stop the sexual exploitation and trafficking of children and to stop these predators. Ms. Cooper, it has indeed been a pleasure and an honor to work with you and the Tim Tebow Foundation on the Renewed Hope Act. You mentioned earlier in your testimony, this bill is designed to provide resources and training and also requiring the Child Exploitation Investigations Unit and HSI field offices to hire an additional 200 computer forensic specialists and criminal analysts because these units are a dedicated team of investigators who can play a crucial role in combating human trafficking. I appreciate the bipartisan support of many members of this committee and the chairman's leadership on this legislation. You touched on something earlier, though, that we need to revisit, and that is you said the words, the right kind of federal funding. So clearly, the Renewed Hope Act, to find these specialists and add to them to supplement the team doing this important work is indeed adding additional federal employees of a certain type and specialty who can help rescue these children and stop these predators. But I'm interested, Ms. Cooper, how much does the Tim Tebow Foundation receive in federal funding?
We do not receive any federal funding at all.
And how many victims has Operation Hope identified?
Tentatively identified 730 and safeguarded and, rescued, I believe it's 289.
So I think it is important for this committee hearing to note that your foundation is doing that kind of extraordinary work in partnership with federal agents, but not by surviving on federal funds. In fact, you have received no federal funds to do the important work that you were doing to stop child exploitation. Now, would you tell us if we had those additional 200 agents at HSI, what you believe we could accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. So over 25 days, they've tentatively identified 730 of the 57,000 children that are waiting and languishing in abusive situations and hoping that someone is going to, knock on that door. So imagine what we could do with 200 full-time investigators and victim identification specialists, because right now, Homeland Security is a global leader in this issue. They are the tip of the spear. They are the most well-trained, along with some of the analysts at Interpol and Europol. But we need to take that army of 7 that's sitting over there at the Cyber Crime Center, and we need to put it on blast, in the words of Senator Cornyn. And that's why we need 200 investigators and analysts to ramp up that effort and get to those 56,000 remaining children that are waiting.
And you also mentioned in your testimony the proliferation of CSAM materials, just how rapidly that material is increasing and growing. And I'd like for you to touch on 2 things. One is why these federal investigators, why this is important that it sits at HSI, and also the urgency of us actually enacting this legislation, getting this done, and getting it signed into law.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why HSI plays sort of the most important role globally is because they have international jurisdiction. And the nature of child sexual abuse material is that it crosses both state and federal and international lines. And so the offender who is raping their child in Ohio is going to share that image with someone overseas in a country, and they may share it with someone in a country that does not have good diplomatic relations with our country. And that's why HSI's partnership with Interpol and Europol is so important, because not all countries want to share their data directly with the United States, and they need a neutral third party. So that's why Interpol's relationship in this ecosystem is absolutely vital in order to find those American children that are waiting to be rescued.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, and I thank the gentlelady for her work on this bill and other bills and legislation in this area. Appreciate it very much. Appreciate all of our witnesses being here today, and you know, we're not going to stop till we get this under control. So thank you for being here.